Hello friends. Well, you know, Robert Duvall said it the best.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Perhaps not napalm in the morning, but burning oil in the morning. And that's what owning an air-cooled 911 is all about, is smelling the burning oil in the morning. It's the best. Yes, it's time for a quick update on my 993 ownership experience. And I absolutely love this car, perhaps more than any car I've ever owned. And this wasn't even the car I was looking for. To recap on how I ended up with this car, you know, I was looking for a 993, but I was looking for a coupe. I was looking for a forest green, if possible. That's my favorite color in these cars. And I was looking for a lower mileage, very clean example. But then this one came along through my local dealership. They did me a very special deal so that it was half the price of a regular 993 911. And sometimes that's just the way it is. Sometimes the right car finds you, and in this case this car definitely found me, and I'm grateful that it did, because if I'd got the car I wanted, I don't think I'd love it anywhere as much as I love this car, because it's already, you know, beat to shit. This car already has little dings and scratches and nicks out of the paint, and the leather work has seen better days. So I don't care about driving this every day, having the dogs in it, parking it wherever I like at the supermarket. It just means that I can enjoy this car so much more. And the important stuff is still perfect. You know, this car drives, sounds, smells perfect. So that's the stuff that's important to me. So in this video I wanted to talk about, firstly, what I've done to this car, and secondly, why is the ownership experience of an air-cooled 911 so special? Particularly for those friends of mine that have 996s and 997s, which look at me with this sort of crocked look on their face like, I don't get it, I don't get it. My car is so much faster than your car, Nick. Why would you ever want a 993? You should have got a 997 for the same price. And there is a point there. But there is something very special about the air-cooled 911s, which I'll try and impart in this video. So let's start with, what have I done with this car for a start? So the first thing I replaced when I got this car was this bit of trim along here. It was sort of flapping around and it was actually cracked and broken. So I found a new bit on eBay for $90, and it actually fixed one of the mirror problems I had with this car as well, because the mirror controls are on this trim and I just had to replug that in. Secondly, the frunk was closing on its own, so we've replaced the struts in the front. I replaced the mats, which just cleaned up the interior, just immediately cleaned up the interior, makes it look a lot better because the mats were completely worn out. You were seeing parts of the floor underneath. Next, I messed around with the stereo. Now this car comes with the upgraded speakers and upgraded amplifiers from the factory, which aren't great compared to modern standard, but when you replace the speakers, the amps are actually powerful enough to drive the head unit to a reasonable volume, and it sounds pretty good. And so I could put the Porsche classic stereo system in here, the modern Apple CarPlay system that has 40 watts per channel and does all the modern stuff, but I'm quite enjoying the nostalgia of having a 1995 stereo system with the CD changer, which still works, which is up in the front, and the tape cassette. I mean, all my music's from that age anyway, so what does it matter? So I just ended up replacing the speakers because they were completely shot, and now it actually sounds pretty good. I'm not sure what the wattage of the upgraded sound system in this car is, but it actually is powerful enough, even with a Cabriolet, which always causes problems with sound systems. Next, I replaced the tires. I think every car, particularly sports cars, benefit from a new set of tires, particularly Michelin Pilot Sports. It just transforms the way the car drives, so I'm super happy with that. They are kind of expensive, but that is one of the most important upgrades you can make to any car, I think. Next, I replaced the windshield, and that was just a safety thing, because the windshield that was in there was so pitted that when I was driving at night with cars coming towards me, I really couldn't see where I was going. And this is a pretty expensive windshield when you get the genuine product from Porsche. I think it's $1,300 for the part and about $2,000 for all the bits and pieces you need to install this windshield. So I actually went through insurance for that. And then I got a tonneau cover, which is this thing on the back here, which just covers the Cabriolet. That was like $200 off eBay. I just had to have a guy install it for me, and it really tidies up the back end. And speaking of that, I actually had the hood fixed. It wasn't raising and lowering. Now it rises and lowers, but I think it looks so ugly when it's up that it's permanently going to be down in this car, I think. And finally I replaced the cassette holder in the back here with a tray full of rubber dinosaurs, which is perhaps the most important upgrade that I've done so far. Oh, it looks like I've walked in on a little 911 meeting here. There's 3 911s just ahead of me. 2 air-cooled, no less. Smudge, over here. What's that? Well, we got a few cameras going on here. Just I needed to capture you guys as well.
Nick, aren't you?
I'm Nick, yes.
Jay Reed.
Hi, Jay.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good, my friend.
Nice to see you.
Yes.
I follow you on your channel. We're just filming for my channel here, actually.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
What are you guys up to?
Which one is Chewy?
This is Tui, there's Smudge.
Smudge.
Yep.
Ah, lovely. Great to see you.
How's it going?
Yeah, hi.
I'm Dave.
Hi, Dave. Nice to meet you.
Your 993 is lovely.
Yeah, it's pretty beat up, but it's not bad. It drives beautifully. That's all that matters. Yeah. And because it's a bit beat up, I can just park it at the Stop and Shop and not worry about it. So it's all good.
Yeah. Got all the cameras going then.
I got a few cameras running, yeah. Oh, we're holding this thing up.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well. So let's talk a little bit about what's special about owning a 993 or any air-cooled 911 for that matter. They are quite a different character to the newer model 911s. The difference between a 993 and a 996 is stark. You know, the 996 is a lot more comfortable, easier to drive, faster. It's just a completely different layout of car. So to get the genuine classic 911 experience, you need a 993 or earlier. And those are the air-cooled models, and everything about them is different than the more modern one. The first one being, as I've already explained, the smell. That's right. Being an air-cooled engine, of course, is expanding and shrinking a lot more than the water-cooled engines. So inevitably there is some oil leak there of some sort, no matter how much you stay on top of it. It's not like it leaks oil onto the garage. I've never had one drop on the garage. Of course, then there's the sound. You know, the air-cooled engines have a very unique sound to them, which is not replicated in the water-cooled engines. There's the general layout of the dash. You know, the dashboard is the classic dashboard instead of the new modern squished together dashboards. And because this is an air-cooled engine, the oil is actually doing double duty as lubricant and keeping the cooling running around the engine. And it's very similar to general aviation aircraft. You know, anyone that's got an air-cooled aircraft is the same. They're completely obsessed with the oil, making sure the oil temperature and the oil pressure is always excellent. You're constantly checking that. Well, that's true in an air-cooled 911 as well. They commit a significant number of gauges to this. You know, you've got the normal low oil pressure warning light, but of course you also have an oil pressure gauge to back that up, and an oil temperature gauge to back that up, and an oil level gauge over here to back that up. So you've got 4 different gauges just monitoring the oil in this car. Next, of course, is the pedal placement. It changed completely with the 996. With the 993 and earlier, the pedals sunk into the floor. A bit like an old Volkswagen Beetle. You press them down into the floor as opposed to push them towards the firewall. And of course, the look and feel inside the cabin is a little more chaotic. You know, this was back in the days when Porsche was a struggling company. So, you know, while everything functions perfectly, they sort of fitted things in here and there, and nothing sort of, you know, you get dials which are sort of off center or snuck into a corner. It's a little bit of an ergonomic disaster in here. But most of all, it's how it drives. These earlier model 911s drive completely differently than the more modern 911s. And you have to have your wits about you. Next, of course, is the power. You know, this is not a fast car by today's standards. 280, 300 horsepower, you know, often a lot of family cars have that sort of power. Now, while it's a smaller, lighter car than modern cars, so it still performs very well. It's not like a modern 911, which, you know, modern 911s, if you're not getting 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, there's something wrong. Whereas this is really struggling to do it in 5. But that's part of the joy. You really have to push this car to get any performance out of it. And that's a lot of fun. That's like driving an MX-5. You have to push them, and that's why they're so much fun to drive. And when you do push it, you hear that glorious howl of the air-cooled engine. But most of all, you have to drive this car. It's a very analog experience. There's no computer nannies helping you here. If you take a corner too fast with too much power on, you are going to step out in the rear and end up in a hedge. You need to have your wits about you to drive these cars fast, and that is what is so much fun about them. And as for the Cabriolet side of things, you know, I'd never want to buy a Cabriolet on purpose. This car found me, so I'm happy with it being a Cabriolet. You get the open air experience, you get to hear a bit more of the engine noise. So it's a bit of give and take, you know. On the highway, it's awful. It's too loud. The dogs hate it. I have to have the roof up. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I'd never buy a brand new 911 in a Cabriolet. I think they look kind of humpbacked, but I think the 993 pulls off the Cabriolet look very, very well. Personally, I hate the top being up. I think it looks ugly, so I think this car's always going to have the top down. But yeah, it's been fine. It's you know, as I say, I wouldn't choose it, but I'm starting to enjoy the Cabriolet experience, even though I kind of see myself as a bit of a poser driving a Cabriolet. As for the dogs, it's interesting. Whenever I walk out into the garage, Tui is waiting by the Macan. She wants to go in the Macan. She hates this car because of the wind noise. Whereas Smudge is always straight into this car, hoping we're going to go somewhere in this car, because he's always got his head out the window. He loves driving around in the 993. So overall, I've spent about $5,000 fixing this car up so far. And it's been a labor of love. I really actually enjoy spending money on this car. I've got no problem with it. I actually have to hold myself back because I was immediately tempted to go away and fix up the leather, which I need to hold off on because the leather's fine, it's tatty, but it's a dog car, it doesn't need doing up. And of course, I wanted to do something about the paint, but the paint looks pretty good as it is as well. It's perfectly fine. I might still replace the lights, that might be the next thing I do, but otherwise, as it is, it's perfect. It's got 141,000 miles on it now. I don't know when the clutch was last done. I haven't felt any slippage, I haven't smelt any clutch, and in these cars you definitely smell the clutch because the heater pulls the heat from around the exhaust area. So as soon as you slip a clutch in these, you smell that clutch smell coming through the heater straight away. So maybe the clutch was done by a previous owner, I don't know, but at 140,000 miles, I would expect that to be needed sometime soon. And one more thing before we go, I'd like to mention that I'm closing my shop because I'm going to New Zealand next week. So if you want any of my t-shirts or stamps, order this week because Saturday I'm closing it for 2 months. 2 months I'm going to be away, so no more Nick Murray stuff. So if you want someone to receive a ridiculous Nick Murray t-shirt or stamp or anything else, actually I'm out of towels at the moment, order immediately, otherwise you'll miss out. Because let's face it, what could be better than a Nick Murray t-shirt for Christmas? And for those of you wondering, I did sell the 928 in the end. It got sold to a very nice gentleman, a local doctor here in the New England area. Saw that driving off Porsche Fairfield the other day. I lost money on that, of course, not too bad, but you know, I wanted to sell that before I headed off to New Zealand, so I had to take that hit. So sad to see that go, but yeah, really between the Macan and the 993, I'm very, very happy at the moment. These two cars keep me well sorted. I'm still going to consider getting a 992 in the future, but right now loving the 993. Anyway, thanks guys for watching my quick update on my 993, and I'll be catching you in the next video. Bye then. And if you're wondering where to acquire the ridiculous t-shirts that I wear in my videos, they're all here in my store, all your favorites, including offensive stamps and my rapid dry towels as well. Yes, Nick Murray t-shirts, being a little inappropriate since 2016.